How do you ultimately navigate a space that's been a little difficult for many women in gaming?
Just keep at it. Don't give up. It can be hard. Like sometimes it could probably feel like everyone's against you, but you just have to honestly keep grinding, keep going. You will find people who support you. You will find people who will be there to help you. You will find people who believe in you. I don't know how many girls have probably given up because they speak and they're already being ridiculed or whatever.
You can still talk down on us, but we're here to play and we're having a great time doing it. And that's a lot of what Women of Halo is right now. Is we're so community based at this point that I feel like a lot of it doesn't faze us. And sure, it gets a little bit annoying, but we have so much support from one another that we're kind of here to stay.
If you're getting into Halo, Women of Halo is here for you. We're all here to be for you, to help you, to support you. I mean, that's what this is about, right?
Welcome to Tide the Leader, a community-driven podcast dedicated to exploring the past, present, and future of competitive Halo. I'm Eli. Joined alongside me in every episode is Makowski. Our guests today have built a community by women for women in the Halo community. They have both been competitors in their own right for many years in Halo and have made a massive impact on the gaming scene. Please welcome Veronica and Bittersweet.
Hello.
Hey guys, how's it going?
I'm doing great, man. This is a lot of fun. You guys were top of our list from the community that we wanted to start looking at. We've done a lot of the pro players, Lucid, Formal, all that, but we want to hear from y'all. And we want to talk about the Women of Halo, but before we get into some of the awesome work you guys are doing there, we like to talk about everyone's origin story. How did you get into gaming? How'd you get your gamer tag? We'll start with you, Veronica.
So as far as I got into gaming, when I was little, my dad had like an Atari and a Super Nintendo, and I kind of dabbled throughout here and there, but never super got into it till I was like kind of in my late teens. I didn't touch Halo until about like 2010. I saw my brother and his friend playing it when I was younger, and I was nervous to ask. I really wanted to play it, but I didn't think they'd let me play. So it was kind of like 2010 I started playing, and I started getting into the competitive community in 2013 and went to my first event in 2015.
That's been a really common thread. The family origins, the origin story have always involved family. It feels like, whether it's a mom or dad, a brother, sister, or even a long distant cousin that you reconnect through with Halo. It always feels like Halo and family go together. So it's really cool to hear. Did you ever end up developing a rivalry with your brother once you got a chance to go up against him and play with him? How was that in 1v1s?
No, I never got to play against my brother. By the time I got into it, he had stopped playing. I definitely would have beat him though, 100%.
And how about you, Celeste? How'd you get into it?
Well, I guess the way I got into it is again through family. So I was probably like 5 or 6, and basically I had a bunch of boy cousins, and we all hung out, and they introduced me to, I don't even remember what system it was. It was probably like PlayStation 1. But even before that, I think I had been dabbling in like a little bit of the Game Boy. So I was just playing super casually. And then I got extremely competitive once the first Halo came out. And then not until about Halo 2 when Xbox Live first came out. And then my dad was just accidentally just said, hey, do you want to just play on my gamer tag and then try this online Halo? And I said, sure, why not? So I tried it. And my first gamer tag was the Fish 13. So I played the Fish, the Fish 13 for about 2 to 3 years, and that's what I was known as. Wow. That's my origin name, and that's my origin story in terms of like competitive. But yeah, I started probably around like the Sega Dreamcast, N64, Game Boy Color. Those were like my kind of like growing up devices that I got into.
When did you switch to Bittersweet as a gamer tag?
That took many, many years, probably because it switched from the Fish 13 to Miss Celeste, and I was like, I'm not going to make a really cool gamer tag until I'm really for sure on it. And then when I was about 13 or 14, I got obsessed with trying to teach myself to do Photoshop and graphics. I don't know why, maybe because I was really bored. So I joined a community called Bittersweet Graphics, and I really liked the name Bittersweet because I'm like, oh, it's 2 personalities. That's totally me. Why not? That's so cool. And I was like, we're going to stick with this. And the original Bittersweet was taken, so I did 2 eyes. And so then it kind of just stuck with that.
And we forgot to ask Veronica, how did you get your gamer tag?
So my first gamer tag was actually Zombie Cake. And I kind of went through a lot of weird random changes. And then, so I'm a really big Resident Evil fan, and Code Veronica was my favorite. So I was Veronica's Virus X. And then when I started playing Halo, I had a friend who would call me Veronica. So I became Veronica.
That's right. And that's why you have the UH at the end for the enunciation. Okay, that makes sense.
Though I actually hate when people pronounce it like that. I understand why they do, but I get it all the time.
Were there any other like competitive games that you got into before you got into Halo? I know, Celeste, you've been a gamer like all kinds of, even outside of video games, you do competition with like Rubik's Cubes. So like what are some of the other like competitive things that you've done, Celeste?
Well, I grew up doing sports, not by choice, to be honest. So thanks, Dad, but no, I ended up loving sports. So I was competitive through that first. So I did tennis, 5-pin bowling, as weird as that sounds.
Canadian bowling, right?
Yes, it's Canadian.
Yes, it's so much fun.
Yes, it's like, I think the comparable part of it is duck bowling in the States.
Yeah, it's what? It's like a really tiny, like coconut-sized ball, and the 5 pins are all in a line like that. So it's like insane to hit a strike, but it's possible.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So I competed that nationally for a very long time. So I went to nationals for that. I competed in tennis and competed in states basically, and then I did baseball. So I traveled to baseball tournaments all throughout my state, and then competed in band. So those were like probably my core competitive games that I got into, sports that I got into before I actually got into competitive gaming. Yes, I did Rubik's Cubes like in the middle of it when there was like a little lull when I was kind of trying to figure out whether I wanted to still compete in Halo or not. I went into competitive Rubik's Cube and tried to dabble in like Call of Duty, as well as I think like Dance Dance Revolution, Guitar Hero. Those were like, those are like the ones that I mostly grew up on. So
I can actually relate to that a lot because I mean I've done all kinds of stuff too. I did the FFR, which is like DDR but for your hands.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, that was like 15 years ago. Yeah.
I was actually top 10 in the world at one point on that game, and that was like while I was competing in Halo 2 and Halo 3. But it was just like, I don't know. And then I got into poker after Halo. I've done all kinds of stuff. And it's almost like you said, you have a sense of, I guess, like purpose, I guess, when you're grinding to get better at something. And throughout my life, like I get really good at something and then maybe I get bored of it and then I find something else to be obsessed over. And like just getting like falling in love with the process of learning is like a big deal to me. And it sounds like you experienced the same thing, and you must to have basically mastered so many different talents. So very cool. What about you, Veronica? Were there any other like competitive games or things outside of gaming that you got into?
I didn't really do sports or anything like that growing up. I did play violin, so I did have competitions and things like that. Halo was my first esport, and I was not good at games before. And going from like playing really casual Halo to the first time I ever played like an actual like competitive custom lobby, the difference was like insane. So then I just became like I don't want to be bad. Like I want to get better. So I was very, very driven to improve. And then in between Halo, I kind of dabbled a little bit in between things. Like I tried doing some of the FPL stuff in Call of Duty. I played a couple like online Overwatch tournaments. Not too long ago, I think 2022, I switched to Apex and I did some of the ladies tournaments there. But mostly Halo driven.
Love to see the wide range of competitiveness between the two of you. I did want to ask a little bit, since we talked about the Rubik's Cubes, what made me think of it is the King of the Nerds show. And I feel like at this point, you've probably talked on 20 different talk shows, maybe more about the experience. Maybe you're tired of talking about it, but for the people that don't know, I guess like tell us a little bit about your experience on King of the Nerds and how like Rubik's Cube solving actually helped you in the competition.
So there was a TV show I was on back in 2013. So it's over a decade ago. The way that kind of even happened was kind of just by chance. I remember it was on my birthday and I got an email saying that someone had noticed me when I was traveling across Canada for video games and said like I own like a kind of player management company where they asked me if I knew someone that played video games but also had like a secondary skill. And my secondary skill that he had proposed to them was my Rubik's Cubes. So I kind of had just naturally got into that because the person that I was dating at the time was like the first or second fastest in Canada. And then so I learned from him, and basically I would try to learn to be faster. Originally it was like about 3 minutes, and then I was like, I need to get like under 30 seconds. So I just super focused on it for like 4 or 5 months, and I did that, and it became like, I went to Rubik's Cube competitions just for fun. Actually, it wasn't to take it too seriously, because again, I'm pretty aware of like my threshold where I go, I don't think I can get past this being that good, so I'm not going to invest the time. So King of the Nerds, like they noticed me, and then they told me to throw in an audition tape. So I threw it on audition tape, and I got contacted to fly it out to basically California. And I got put into hotel jail, which is they lock you up in hotel for like 5 days. You're not allowed to leave it. And then anywhere they take you, they blindfold you. So you have to like, so you're in a car, you're with the other contestants, you can't say a single word, and you're blindfolded. So it almost generally feels like you're being kidnapped, but you don't know anything about the show. Yeah, I know nothing about the show. I just knew that it was about a nerd competition. So I'm like, oh, it's going to be other gamers. It's going to be like all of us competing in video games. Kind of at the time, I think, if you know what WCG Ultimate Gamer was, like,
the World Championships. The end result, Team Canada won in 2008. I want to say it.
They had a reality show called WCG Ultimate Gamer where they had a bunch of gamers compete to be the champion. So I was like, oh, it's going to be that show. No, it wasn't. I showed up, I'm blindfolded. They're like, take off the blindfold and walk down that aisle, and then we're starting the filming. I was like, oh, this is insane. So I walk down this aisle, walk up to the fountain. I'm just like looking around, and there's like 10 other people. And then I see the 2 hosts, and I'm like, wait a second, I recognize those guys. And then they're like, you're here to compete against your other fellow nerds who are like scientists and hackers and whatnot, and board game people. And you're competing for $100,000. And I was like, this is insane. This is not what I expected. And so I was locked in a house for a month straight, and I had to compete in a month straight against challenges against each other. And then I ended up being the last one standing. And the Rubik's Cube part, believe it or not, it didn't help me solve anything in that competition. So I think it helped me to intimidate people. Other than that, I don't think necessarily like solving the Rubik's Cube helped me at all in that. It was all just very social, very, how do you navigate a reality TV show and try to beat your opponents? So I was kind of like, okay, we're locked in, because I watched Survivor, I watched Big Brother.
Sounds very similar in that way. Yeah.
It was the exact same, except a bunch of nerds. So yeah, it was great. It was a great experience.
When was it that I think you said your first event was in 2015, Veronica. How did you get into it? Tell us about some of those early days. Who'd you team with and all that?
So yeah, when I first played Halo, very, very casual. And I started, like, I think I found on YouTube, it was like MLG videos. T-Squared, I saw the Ogre Twins, and I was like, oh, there's tournaments. And unfortunately, I missed out on all of the cool tournaments and stuff that would have happened because I was in Ohio. So I missed all those Columbus events. No. Yeah. So I
could have seen the Ogre Twins right up in personal.
I know, right? During Halo 4, I didn't go to any LANs, and it was kind of there were tournaments. I was going to go to some, kind of fell through. So when H2A came out, that's when I was planning on competing. I actually tried to tried out for Bittersweet's all-girls team. I did not make it, which is okay. I didn't expect to make it. I almost didn't even try out, because I was like, why would I do this? I didn't have experience. And that kind of ricocheted me into actually everything that I do. But I said I was going to go ahead and compete. My first teammates, random people I just found, last minute teammates, went to, it was St. Louis 2015. UGC, I think.
UGC, yep.
Yeah. Actually, it was a pretty cool event, honestly. Our round 1 didn't show up. Round 2, my first ever 4v4. I played straight ripping, T-Squared. Oh. Yeah, they did on main stage, by the way.
Wow.
So it was cool, right? Like, who gets to go to their first event and play on main stage? And I didn't goose, so hey.
In some ways, it's the dream. Just getting that experience, going up against the best in the world on the main stage. I mean, even if you get your ass kicked, it's still a 1 in a million Halo experience. So I think any Halo fan would honestly love to get their ass beat by straight ribbon, if that makes sense.
Gotta have the right attitude,
yeah. You don't really get that nowadays, right? Like, open bracket's not really like shown a lot, and it's kind of like, if you play pros, like, you're like the best of the best get to play pros, right? Like the top players, the top AMs. So back then it was kind of cool. Like, everyone was kind of mixed in. Yeah, you might get beat, but it was a cool experience, and you don't really get that nowadays.
Yeah, it used to be just a one giant bracket. So one seed plays the 150th seed or whoever it happens to be. But yeah, no, you're right. I guess nowadays the only chance that people really get to play against pros would be in like matchmaking, like custom lobbies if you know the right people, I guess. But besides that, it's pretty hard for the average person to even experience what it's like to play with or against professional players. So that sounds like an awesome experience. And then Celeste, when did you first start going to tournaments? I want to say you started back in like Halo 3, or was it later than that?
Earlier.
Earlier, okay.
The first event I ever attended was MLG Chicago 2007.
Wow.
Yeah, like I'm talking about Halo 2
I think that
early.
Wasn't that 06? Because
I thought it was. I think it was.
I think there was. It might have been 06.
Was there one in 07?
I think there was one in 07. Yeah,
there was definitely a Chicago 06.
Yeah, I got top 8 in the FFA, so I remember that one. That was one of my best events. It was 06, but I don't know. We're so old we can't even remember the tournaments. But
no, I won't be able to remember it down to the pad or anything. But I did start competing probably at least heavily in 2008. It started with obviously like a LAN tournament in these locals back in like Toronto, where I'd have to take a bus and try and compete in Halo. But then when I started going to events, it was MLG. So MLG 2007 was the year that I started going to them heavily, and then I started competing more so in 2008. And I started in Halo 2, so I did compete like it was like maybe like 2 or 3 events because it was so quick for me, and then it switched over to Halo 3.
I'm sure Toronto was one of those events in 08. That was probably an easier one for you to get to. That was a fun event. That was like there was like an anime expo going on at the same time. It was like half the venue was this huge convention, and then the other half is like the MLG setup. Yep. I ended up meeting like the actor that voiced like some of the Star Trek actors, I think, were there. There was all kinds of different people there. So
yeah, that's when they were holding other tournaments too, because that's where I competed in Halo and Guitar Hero at the same time. Yeah, there was like a huge stage for Guitar Hero 3, and I hadn't played it, but I was like, I'm gonna go try this. I got second, which was not too bad, but second place didn't get anything. Like we got no prizes. The first place got, I think at the time it was like $5,000, and like back in 2008, that's a lot of money, right? So I'm like, oh my god, $5,000 for a tournament if I beat this kid, and it was like an 8-year-old kid, so I was like devastated. I mean, he won the competition, but I was like, oh, whatever. I got second. I'll just go back to Halo, and then I just got destroyed in Halo, and I was like, this is not a good tournament. so yeah,
it happens. I feel like everyone's had that experience where they like just do not get far at all in the tournament. That was me when I tried to play Smash for a little bit, just getting double first round at every event that I went to until I finally got a little bit better. But very cool.
So you were competing way back in some of the very original early days of competitive Halo. People like Xena, Golden Girl, Smiley Girl. You two are legends in the Halo space, but these 3 are pioneers and really some of the OGs. What's your recollection of that, and how did they maybe inspire you today?
Yeah, I really looked up to Xena and Smiley at the time. Golden Girl I hadn't known too well about, and then Golden Girl and I started teaming together for all of the Halo 3 tournaments. Actually, my best placing was probably, it was her and I, and then 2 other guys, and then we actually, I think it was like losers round 6. And keep in mind, like that was a pretty big accomplishment back in the day.
That's far.
Because it was like 200 plus teams at the time, and it was like everyone's trying to like do this free for all of like really getting through this bracket. So that was really big for us. And I think also we had teamed both in Halo 3, and then we tried to do it in future Halos, and then she kind of stopped competing, I think, for a very long time. If you actually find it on YouTube, which I hope it's taken down at this point because I was it's so awkward. But me and Xena did a whole segment together where we had to play against each other for a tournament, and it was in Halo 2. So I had met her. I would like really looked up to her, and then Smiley came around, and then they kind of pioneered women in gaming, and that's kind of where I was aiming to kind of go at the time do it in Canada, but we just didn't have many events in Canada, so it was a little bit tougher.
I teamed with Xena at New York playoffs 06. well, I was supposed to team with her, but one of our teammates decided to stay home and play World of Warcraft instead of show up to the tournament. So we ended up getting DQ'd. We actually found a sub, but we were so young and stupid at the time to not like officially ask if we could sub the teammate in. So we just played through the bracket. We got really far. I think we were in like 5th round or something when one of the teams that we beat, I guess, found out that we were playing with a sub and then basically ratted on us, and then Clap came over and DQ'd us in a big like awkward moment. Yeah, I felt bad because it was probably one of the better teams that Xena had been on. It was me, her, Timeliest Brute.
Oh, I remember that name too. Yeah.
Yeah, and Rudy Reborn, but Rudy didn't show up, so we picked up a guy named Crack Pants at the tournament.
What a great gamer tag.
Who actually wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
But no, I love Xena. She's now like head at Bungie. She's like a big deal at Bungie.
I think she's at Epic now, but I mean, yeah, Bungie, Epic Games. She's been not only a pioneer from the very beginning, but now she holds very, very high roles within the gaming space, which is super cool to see. Couldn't have anybody better, I think, along with you two in the space to lead, especially for people that have had that awareness around the very beginning, because I think that just provides so much historical context and perspective. Veronica, speaking of the historical beginnings, talk to us about the early days of your involvement with Women of Halo, how this got started, what was sort of the early rallying cry behind it, and how far you guys have come since then.
So we didn't officially become Women of Halo, or Women of Halo didn't exist until Infinite. So prior to that, I just kind of started, I guess it was sometime after Halo 2 anniversary. So like I said, I was new to competing. I'd never been to an event. H2A was coming out, Master Chief Collection, and Bittersweet and Golden Girl were a team of 2, and they were running games for their all-girl LAN team. Like I saw the tweet, I was like, oh, that's really cool. I thought it was really neat, but they were trying out on Halo 3 because at the time the Halo 2 servers were down, MCC wasn't out yet, so your only way you could really play H2 would have been like H2 Connect. So they did try out in Halo 3. I didn't know Halo 3. I didn't know the times, the call outs or whatever. I was like, why would I try out for this? I'm like, what's the point? I'm not going to get picked. And then somebody actually tagged me in it, hyped me up. I'm like, you know what? Why not? What do I got to lose, right? So I got on, I practiced with them, I played every day. I had someone reviewing my film, I was learning the times. I didn't get picked, and that's okay, you know, right? Like other people who had been more dedicated, played longer, they got picked. In turn, I said, well, I'll make my own girl team. So I put out a tweet, and someone tagged me in Exo Domino. And we became like best friends. We became a duo, we grinded, we played all the time, but we just, at the time, I only knew like maybe 20 girls. And so it was hard finding girls who had like the right mindset, the attitude, the skill level. I said, there has to be more girls out there, more girls who want to grow, improve. And I just kind of started reaching out on Twitter, Twitch, Xbox, even Halo Waypoint, gathering girls. And then I started hosting 8s. And then we went from 8s to Dom and I hosting a tournament. And kind of from there, different people got involved. And in 2016, FPL, which is the Female Pro League, they came in and they had a Halo League. So we actually had an all-girls Halo League during Halo 5. And that ran for about April to July of 2017 at Halo 5. I actually teamed with Celeste. We got second under the org excellence. And then from there, it was hosting 8s. Domino helped. Cutie, a couple other girls, Dreamy Dream. We ran a couple tournaments. And I think our biggest one for Halo 5 was the last one before Infinite came out. I was doing a draft tournament, and Minx was helping me. LVT got involved, and then version 1 got involved, and we had this kind of big prize pool. Lady Akinna got involved, and that's when we made the Discord of Women of Halo. And we kind of just had a good start at the beginning of Infinite, and we actually had a 70-team ladies 2v2. It was the most girls we've ever had. It was like 140 girls. It was like a 1.5K prize pool. Akinna and I actually casted ourselves. We didn't take a break. We casted for like 12 hours straight.
What?
Never casted before in my life.
Oh.
The Discord blew up, right? The Discord blew up, and then other different groups, they started hosting tournaments. And then we actually had the LSPS, which was the Lady Spartan Pro League, or Pro Series, sorry. And it was a league in Halo Infinite. And I helped run that with Brute. He used to work with E United. Eventually, I kind of drifted away, honestly, from the community a little bit. And that's when Generic stepped in. She took over the community role. She started hosting 8s, welcoming girls in. She came up with the logo. And then she's coming to me with all these ideas, and it kind of reignited my passion. And so we just kind of started going hard, got involved with Hydra. And then I was like, you know what? I think we need more, we need more people. So then that's why I reached out to Celeste, Domino, and here we are.
So the executive team, just to recap, it's the two of you, Celeste, Veronica, Generic, Exo Domino, and
Lady Akinna.
Echidna, that's right, of course.
Yep.
Yeah, and I know she's been around. I mean, all of you have been around doing these Lady 8s for a long time. It's so cool to see the kind of revival of it recently. Now you guys are doing 8s a lot. You got the whole Discord set up, and then we actually just recently had the complexity tournament. So
Yes.
let's talk about that. What a cool event. So essentially there were teams of 3 ladies drafted by you guys. They were kind of like handpicked almost after the application process to be balanced and fair. And then they drafted their pro team captain. We had like Druck, Ryanu, Piggy, all these different guys. So talk to us a little bit about that. How did all that come to be?
I can't remember where it first started. So Generic did get involved. She actually won a some type of giveaway to go to the complexity
Yeah.
I don't know, esports thing, and I'm not sure if that's where it started or not. Maybe that's where it was. But like I said, we had been picking up traction. We had been doing these events. People just kind of started reaching out to us, wanted to get involved. They liked what was going on, and Complexity wanted to do a tournament with us. We thought it'd be a really cool idea to get girls and pros kind of involved. We haven't had an event like that before. A really good opportunity to get the pros involved with the girl scene. Girls get the opportunity to play with a pro player. We decided the best way would be to try to handpick the team based on ranks, based on placings, based on what we know of the girls. It was really hard. It was very hard. The picking process was hard. Picking the teams was hard. It was a really good time.
Whole application process too, right? You guys,
yes.
I think Jen told me it was like 300%. You guys got 100% of the amount of applications than you actually could select. So that was probably pretty tough for y'all to, because you don't want to exclude people, but you kind of have to for that kind of tournament.
Well, I think it originally started as only 8 teams were going to be formed, and then we tried to push with complexity, say, can we do 16? Like, we really want to do 16. If we could, obviously, we want to include everyone. But because of the limitations, and it was very dependent on how many pros were available at the time as well, and a lot of them were already had other obligations and all that. So we ended up being able to do 12 teams. So the application, as Haley said, it was really tough. Like trying to do a draft tournament where you're trying to balance everyone and understand each player the best you can and try to satisfy every condition you can. It's extremely difficult. But I think the end results of it turned out really, really, really well. For the most part, I think all of us were really happy with the turnout, not even that, but the feedback that we got back as well. So it really turned out great, and I hope we can do more tournaments like that.
With 10 seconds left to secure this tournament win, Jolly.
They gotta stop it. This is the last chance. Making a move is the only opportunity that Awuga has, but they stop C. They start to capture C, and it's not enough. A last-second stall out. Awuga was looking so primed and ready.
Yeah, so Les, you first started off on the sticks competing in various games, but now you have your own esports company, DSA, which hosts and admins tournaments. What's that been like going from on the main stage, like Veronica said, against Straight Rippin' in Winners Round 2 to adminning Winners Round 2 between Optic and FaZe?
Yeah, that was a strange kind of path that I took. I mean, I just love competitiveness, right? And so there's a point in your life where you're like, I need to start making like an actual career, and what is something that I really am interested in. And I knew I always wanted to work into video games. I just didn't know what. Like I tried to go to school for computer science because I wanted to program the video games. Then I also wanted to get into graphic design and start, animating and all that kind of stuff. So I think it just accidentally happened where I was adminning a Halo tournament because someone just asked me that they needed someone to admin. And I was like, well, I know the game. Sure, why not? I decided to admin it. And then it kind of just developed into, I really like tournament operations on the back end because I can do a lot of multitasking, but not even that. I can do a lot of organizational skills that I feel I can step up to do for tournaments on like a higher level. And once that happened, I got into adminning on not only Halo, but like for multiple games. So I started doing Call of Duty, Fortnite, Apex, Valorant, and it was just like, it's now at the point where I think this is where I want to be. And I just want to see where that can grow in terms of like my career and operations and all that. So
very cool. And as far as I understand the DSG, that's why you just went to the Esports World Cup, right? You just got back from that not too long ago.
I leave tomorrow.
Oh, you leave tomorrow.
I leave tomorrow. Wait. Yeah.
Wow.
What was I thought you were just at something else though.
I'm everywhere.
Yeah. So
How do you fit the time in to admin community grassroots tournaments that may not even have a prize pool? I mean, you are in the trenches, you are in the mix, whether it's for a $25 million prize pool or 25 cents. Talk about what you're crazy. Like talk about why you do that.
What I'll do is there's pockets of time. So like when I'm traveling and I'm like prepping for a tournament where it's like, okay, I go and set up, but like, you know, for a weekend, LV2 always approaches me and they're just like, hey, are you available for this? It's just a community. I'm just like, you know what? I can build out this tournament. And if I sit here for the next 14 hours, I can do it. I will sit there for 14 hours straight and I will build out a tournament. That's what happened with the Forge Hub tournament that I just did. I got approached for that last minute and they said, look, it's new. Like we were recommended you. And I was like, yeah, sure. Like I've got like one day during this travel. So I'll sit on my laptop like in a hotel room and I'll run a tournament. That's kind of how I did the complexity tournament too, is I before I left, I spent probably 40 hours trying to devise that tournament. And then when it became the actual tournament, I sat in my hotel room all day and I just split that between that and going to the convention that I had to go work at. So I did, so I did like both, but I just, because I love Halo, right? Halo's like my baby. It's like it's my game. It's been so integrated into my blood since I was like 12 years old. And now I'm turning 35, right? So it's like more than half my life. So I'm like, I can't really say no. It's hard. It is really hard for me to say no to someone if they ever ask for any help in Halo.
Dude, can I just run through a brick wall real quick? Because like, man, that was,
yeah.
Wow.
I will say that it was so clear the difference, and I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but like the first Forge Hub tournament to this last one, the upgrade was insane. Like the actual like series layouts were well thought out, and like that.
Yeah.
A lot of people that watch these podcasts, by the way, are probably people that just watch the tournaments. They want to watch the best players in the world compete. Like, you know, we're the guys that are casting, whatever, but they don't really know what goes on behind the scenes to like make all of this stuff happen, which like you've got to like just coming up with a series of game types for every single round that makes sense so that people don't play repeat game types. So like if your winner's round 2 and you lose, you don't want to accidentally have the same game types for losers round 3 where they're going to go next. Like,
yeah, that's that. And people don't know that, but for me to build up a map rotation to my expectations, it usually takes me about an hour and a half to 2 hours to sit down and like to sit at it. Because with Forge Hub, for example, the way that was going to work was they were just going to do the same game types over and over again. So you know how it is if like the same map. So if you had 1 map, 2 map, 3 map, 4 map, 5 map, that's your best of 5 series, but they keep going and it's just the same every single time. And I'm an advocate where it's like, you need a rotation just for the player's sake, the player experience. You need them to not be bored with the same game type. So
and the viewer experience too. I mean, the viewers don't want to watch the same map.
Like you said, Eli, it really makes a big difference when you have an admin like Celeste in the mix, because you're looking at taking away maybe an hour or 2 of everybody's time that would have otherwise been wasted if things aren't running smooth and flawless. So it's a huge deal that a lot of people don't think about when they just pull up on a Sunday morning at 11 a.m. and want to have fun and enjoy their day watching Halo. You just don't think of it, but they deserve all the appreciation.
Yeah, people don't understand that the conditions that you want to meet, like for myself, when I sit there and I build the game types, I have a working note session where it's like, okay, so let's say hypothetically I have a best of 5. Let's just say it goes to only game 3, right? It's like if it only goes to game 3, I only want a certain map and a certain game type to be able to show up a certain amount of times per tournament, but try and keep it balanced where that game type shows up the same amount as like a strongholds versus a flag versus like, you know, King of the Hill. So I will sit there and I will look at like a best of 3 versus a best of 5. And I'll say, okay, wait, those last 2 game types aren't going to get played. Let's just go to the first 3. I can't have it repeat the here, but then in winners round 2, they drop to here. So they can't have the repetitiveness here. And then I'll do like color coding where it's like, I see where everyone drops and how many game types they will play a certain flag or right. So a certain thing isn't overplayed and people don't understand. Like I am very like problem solving. So I will sit there for about 2 hours to perfect like a map rotation. It's a lot. It's not just me just adminning or watching Halo, just sitting here going, that's cool. It's it's me really like trying to build something that is also good for production. And I do the run of show most of the time too. So I will pick the games being like, okay, I think these skill sets from these teams will be the most like entertaining. And I will interject it most of the time too, unless production obviously is like, hey, I really want optic and phase. It's like, yeah, of course, makes sense. Okay, here.
You were kind of guiding the show because you were DMing us like, hey, this would probably be the best series to watch. And then it was like every series that you picked ended up going to a game 5 because you just, I don't know. It's really cool to see like how much that level of experience pays off. And it's fun listening to you break down the game type rotation because it is like solving a puzzle.
Or a Rubik's Cube.
Yeah, you're like Rubik's Cubing.
It is. It is.
I mean, from the outside looking in, it really does feel like the adminning job and all this work that you put in is often a thankless job. Like you said, the players, they just show up in the Discord and they're like, hey, when's the match start? Hey, why is it late? You know, they're just like instantly complaining. They don't understand like how much work got into it, how many different moving parts are involved. Like, where do you derive your pleasure from since you probably don't get thanked enough, honestly?
Yeah. Honestly, it doesn't help that I'm a perfectionist. I am a perfectionist, but because I was a player myself, it means a lot to me to have a tournament that I spend money to, like, let's just say hypothetically a LAN tournament versus an online, but let's say a LAN tournament. I spent money to go travel to have a good experience and to have things built out with the thought of my experience in mind. And that's where a lot of like my building out of a tournament is more so, how do I make everyone's lives easier and more enjoyable? And that's kind of my mentality of what drives me to kind of want to be really passionate about these tournaments and why I really like what I like doing, right? So like, for example, when the casters are just like, hey, do you have like some talking notes? And it's just like, here, let me write down an entire list of all the important things that you can touch base on with some of the players or certain storylines. You see that it just makes their job easier. And I think that's what really motivates me is the people. As cheesy as that sounds. As a player, I really loved my experience as a kid when I went to like MLG tournaments, and I kind of missed that.
I think that's a necessary attitude to like be in the position that you're in. You have to put the player experience first. You got to make sure that it's a fair environment. You got to make sure that it makes sense, that everything's clear. That's going to make everything run faster as well. If it's like just clearly communicated, you're also in touch with all the different admins that have to like respond to tickets or disputes if there's a dispute because somebody didn't put in the score right. You know, there's so many different aspects to it, but the player experience comes first. And that totally makes sense why you do such a great job with it. Because as a player, you know what you would like to experience.
Exactly.
We got to talk about the complexity tournament, which was awesome. We saw, I think it was Piggy's team in the finals that ended up winning it, and he was alongside Lacar, Fortune Cookie, and Spartanet. Props to them. They played amazing in the tournament. I can't wait to see what you guys have next, though. What's in the cards for the future of Women of Halo? Do you guys have some tournaments planned out? Veronica, do you want to tell us some of that?
There is something we're kind of working on, but we can't really talk about that at the moment. As for anything else, I know I think Generic's been trying to get involved a lot with the community, so there will probably be more little mini tournaments and community-oriented things for now. Like Celeste is really busy, Domino's really busy, but we are trying to kind of constantly think about the future. Like I said, we have something in the near future coming up, but that's probably about all I can talk about for now.
Now, you guys have both had to overcome a lot of adversity to reach the point that you guys have. What are some of the challenges that you guys have faced when it comes to competing in esports as a woman? I know just from the clips that you see on Twitter where, you know, a girl can hit like a 1v6 and then she says something and then the guy in the vlog will be like, oh, clutch invalid. Like, I don't get it, but you guys have first person POV on that as a woman in esports. Veronica first, let's talk us through that.
So when I first got into Halo, it was a ex-boyfriend of mine actually got me into it. And so one of the first things I heard that he told me was girls weren't good at video games. And so
wow.
Yeah, so and it definitely, like, that's the other thing too, is that's a mindset that guys I felt would negatively view towards women, and it kind of puts you against each other because I don't want to be compared. I don't want to be known as, oh, I don't want to be bad. I want to be good. That's where those like unnecessary competitive rivalries happen between girls for no reason because you're kind of fighting to be the better girl. And so that was the first mindset that I heard. But then very quickly I was like, oh, I want to play with other girls. I want to, you know what? I want to make a team of girls and I want to beat these guys. So when I started playing in Halo 4, I actually used to run into people who they didn't want to play with me. my friend would invite me. He'd be like, I'm not playing with her. I'm not playing matchmaking. Just matchmaking, not even a tournament. And I have been told before that someone didn't run games with me because I was a girl. Now, if you don't think I'm good, that's fine. You don't think I'm good for your team. You don't think my play style fits, my attitude, my communication style. But to simply say I don't want to team with you because you're a girl, because you're this, because you're that. No, even like not even gender based. There could be other reasons why someone may not want to team with a person, how they look, how they sound, whatever. Like those are just not real reasons to not include somebody. But now, like for me, if a guy says something to me, I'm either gonna mute the dude or I'm gonna say something back. Like, you know. But not every girl's like that. Not every girl can take that. Like, not sometimes how many girls who may have been talented gave up because of those experiences, you know? So it does happen.
It's a great point. Yeah, no, I mean, I've befriended a lot of girls in the Halo scene over the years, play with them frequently, and I've heard just ridiculous things. In matchmaking lobbies, it's just like some guy is on our team. I was playing with, I think it was like Operant Power. She and I used to play a bit, and some guy on our team, at the moment she started talking, was like, "Oh, great, we got a girl on our team. It's auto loss or something like that." I'm like, "Dude, I had to turn in I usually don't have my mic on in matchmaking because, you know, the ping option suffices in a lot of cases. A lot of people are weird, but I had to turn on my mic and it was like, dude, if you fix your attitude, we can actually win this game. And she's probably going to outslay you if you give her a chance because she's disgusting at this video game.
She's nasty.
And the guy, like, it's sad that it took me to say something for him to like change his attitude. But then after the game was over, he actually did apologize. And sure enough, Drecky had more kills than him and we won the game. Like, I don't know. It's just that kind of attitude just doesn't belong in esports, in my opinion. So it's sad to see it, but all we can do is kind of deal with it on a case-by-case basis. The way that I see it, like if you see somebody acting that way, like speak up and say something like, dude, what are you talking about? That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. But how about you, Celeste? Tell us what's some of the adversity that you faced in that regard.
It was really, really tough at the start, like really tough. This was back in 2005, 2007. When those comments that you kind of hear, like what Eli was mentioning, was pretty consistent. And for me as a kid, like granted, I'm very different now. Like nothing really phases me anymore. And sometimes I'll troll back, but I'm at that point where, as a kid, it's really tough for a girl. Because women, when they have certain expectations of themselves, like for myself, I had a lot of expectations. And that was not only from like me wanting to succeed, but as a female, it's like you don't really know your place in terms of like how you are like as a woman, like in the dating world or like in security wise. Like a lot of us girls have a lot of expectations of the way we look, the way we talk, the way we present ourselves, and that can get judged very quickly, instantly, the moment you speak or the moment you even show your face. And that was kind of how I had felt when I was like in 2006, 2007. The moment I like popped onto the scene, a lot of people didn't necessarily give me the, oh, she's not good at video games. It's why is she here? And that was kind of, it was a genuine concern of like, why is this girl competing? I don't understand. Because it was not common and it wasn't like anything was established yet for how well they would play in the game. And then eventually over the years when they saw that women weren't placing or weren't competing as much, it's just like, oh, they just don't play because they're not good at it. And that kind of like follows you through for a very long time. And my biggest ones at the beginning is that I don't think a lot of people not necessarily didn't think I was good. They just didn't think I took it seriously. And I think that the reason why is because there just wasn't many girls at the time. And so they thought, oh, she just wants to be around like a lot of guys and just hang out with them. And it was very much so attached in that regard for the longest time. And it really sucked because I was such an insecure girl. And I'm sure many women or little girls at that time from the age of like 10 to 17 don't necessarily know themselves and don't know where they fit like physically and like emotionally and all this kind of stuff. And when you kind of put them into that environment, they have to grow up really fast. They either can take it or they can't take it. And that's kind of where I was always back and forth. I was very like, I don't know if I can handle this. This is a lot of spotlight on me for no reason. And sometimes I'm getting comments like I'm in it for the wrong reasons constantly. And I am obviously as a person very much so the opposite. I like to prove people wrong, that like that's not who I am. I don't like to be assumed that's who I am. So I'll show you that's not who I am. And so that's why I kind of dove deeper into the gaming community as opposed to run away. But I like if if I was not that personality type, I could easily see why a lot of girls would just be like, I'm not going to get involved with this. This is too much. And it was like those nasty comments that you hear from guys saying like, I don't know if I'm okay to say on here, but like, just like, shut the hell up. Like, in a more crude way, but like, shut the hell up. You don't deserve to be here, or go back to the kitchen. Like the typical things that you're like, oh, that's so funny to hear, because it's not, they don't actually mean it, but they genuinely meant it back in like early 2000s, because they saw you as like a person that's just not there to take it seriously. So that was part of my growing process with that. It's like I wanted to leave so many times, as sad as it sounds, and it just wasn't my personality too. And I met a lot of good people, and then I joined a female organization, I think in Halo 3, called Team Foxy. And that's when a PMS was developing and stuff. And all those women communities then felt like a safe space. And then started feeling like, you know what, even if they're going to talk bad about us, we have each other. And that's kind of essentially how it's been since then to like now. And that's a lot of like our community as well. It's just like, you can still talk down on us, but we're here to play, and we're having a great time doing it. And that's a lot of what Women of Halo is right now, is we're so community based at this point that nothing really, like, I feel like a lot of it doesn't phase us. And sure, it gets a little bit annoying, but we have so much support from one another that we're kind of here to stay. And it's not as bad for me. I don't feel it's as bad as anymore as it was back in the day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like a decade ago, I feel like everything is a little bit more accepting. I feel like the guys are a little bit more accepting, as much as it's more highlighted on social media.
Yeah.
I guarantee if social media was back there in 2008 and you saw that all on Twitter, you'd be like, wow, this is really toxic. It's just for me, it's so different now. And I'm sure, like Haley said, it's a different experience for each girl, but that's kind of like to each of our own stories.
I think a lot of guys have also seen girls that are better than them. So it's like,
yeah, and they're intimidated by that. Isn't there a study that says if you're worse at video games, you're more likely to be toxic to women in a lobby? Like there's some correlation there, and
there is.
There definitely is. I mean, I think I've even seen that myself. It's always the guy that's bottom fragging that's talking some shit.
Yeah.
So you guys have both obviously gone through a tremendous amount of adversity, but because of that, I think you guys are well suited to give some of the best advice to those little girls or other women in the gaming scene. How do you ultimately navigate a space that's been a little difficult for many women in gaming?
What I would tell them is just keep at it. Don't give up. I know it can be hard. Like sometimes it could probably feel like everyone's against you, but you just have to honestly keep grinding, keep going. You will find people who support you. You will find people who will be there to help you. You will find people who believe in you. I don't know how many girls have probably given up because of, they speak and they're already being ridiculed or whatever. I do think, like Celeste said, things are getting better. And I think as years go on, as long as esports continues to thrive, I think we will continue to see girls find themselves in better places, find themselves achieving more. But yeah, definitely just keep at it. And if you're getting into Halo, Women of Halo is here for you. We're all here to be for you, to help you, to support you. I mean, that's what this is about, right? Telling you not to give up, just keep going.
My advice to the little girls out there, especially if I were to backtrack and talk to myself, was don't take things too seriously. And I know it's really easy to say that and it's tougher to actually execute, but when you just kind of follow your own path and you focus on yourself and what you enjoy, you're going to find the right people and you're going to encounter the right people that have the same attitude as you. And I think that is what's going to probably nurture your motivation to still stay in the community or stay like involved or like kind of take those next steps, be like, should I compete? Like, should I try to do this tournament? I think it's having the right support system, because if I didn't have the right people around me, then I probably would have fallen apart quicker. It was like those people that are super encouraging, that like say like, hey, yeah, like come play with me, or like, hey, it doesn't matter like what your gender is, like you're damn good, let's play, like, or you want to grind, let's hop on, right? And I think that's the biggest part of like what Women Halo is doing, and seeking those types of communities, whether it's in Apex, whether it's in Halo, whatever game it is. The right people are there. They also just don't know how to connect with one another. But we have social media. It's not too hard anymore. And I think the more you're willing to open yourself up and just kind of speak and be like, this is who I am, like I'm cool with it, and you don't have to put a front up, I think the more you'll feel very included and probably motivated to kind of like take gaming to another level if you wanted to. So that's kind of like my advice to the little girls out there, is not to obviously not let it get to you too hard. Just find the right people.
Fantastic advice, not just for Halo, but also for life, I think. I mean, that was beautiful from both of you, honestly. Last part of the podcast here, we're going to get into what we call the quick questions or quick cues. We'll let you guys kind of come up with this one together. So who would you say is on your Women of Halo Mount Rushmore?
All right, Haley, go ahead.
I mean, you gotta have Xena on there.
We could do Xena.
Yeah.
We could do Smiley. Xena and Smiley. That's already 4. There's already 2.
Yeah, it's 2.
Well,
We need to.
You can include Haley. Haley deserves it.
No, you can include
Yeah.
Celeste.
Can you do half the face?
Like
Can
half
you
of
do
us?
half of us? So Xena, Smiley, half of us. Who's the last one, Haley?
I guess if we're going to talk about, if I'm going to throw out somebody who has probably been around for a long time and been competing for a long time and been in the community, if we're talking about women in the Halo space, I guess I'll have to throw Queen up there. I mean, she's been involved, she's been around, you know her name, so we'll throw her up there.
And if anyone's confused, we're talking about Queen X3. I know there's a few other queens. What's a Halo hot take that might have you roasted on social media?
A Halo hot. Well, okay, I got it. My favorite Halo.
Don't say Halo 4.
Ew.
Okay,
No,
sure.
okay, I was gonna say it's like it kind of depends on who you talk to whether this is a hot take or not. So my favorite Halo, and I think it's better than Infinite, is Halo 5. So that's gonna depend on which part of the community you're talking
Okay.
to, whether that's a hot take or not.
I think it is.
I think one of the worst game types and maps was Halo 3 Onslaught Flag.
Oh,
Thank you.
Yeah, to be honest, the easiest spawn trap of all time. You literally just
Thank
stand
you.
on one side and you stare, and there's only 3 spawn points. You could be in the
Yes.
corner, by the
Trash
dumpster,
can, yeah.
or by like B1 or A1, depending on whichever. It was like
Yes.
there was really only 3 places you could spawn, and yeah, I have a clip that ended up making the MLG ESPN top 10 back when that was a thing, where I got back-to-back overkills. But like,
Yeah, did you feel proud? I was gonna say, did you feel proud?
I mean,
Nice
I just
SWAT
spawn
clip,
killed.
nerd.
Yeah, exactly. I just spawn killed the team twice in a row. I just top center, just clean up damage. I got sniped down on my right, like damaging everyone. Gunshots in their base, shooting them from the boxes, and I'm just cleaning everything up. Got back-to-back overkills. Like, yeah, that was not a great game type, honestly. If you
Thank you.
really think about it, but a lot of people would probably disagree. It is what it is.
A lot. I thought people were wanting that remade into this Halo, and I was like, no, it needs to die. That
You know
game
why
type
they
needs
like
to
it, Eli?
die.
Why?
Because they're biased. Yep.
I
They
mean,
had a big
yeah.
moment. They had a clip,
Yep.
or they had a great game where they like took a match off a pro squad, and that's why they like Onslaught Flag. They're biased.
What is your favorite weapon throughout all Halo titles?
It's not that hard, Haley.
Oh, I guess the VR.
Yeah.
Well, I was trying to be more unique, you know, because there's a lot. There's a lot of different fun guns, but I mean, I couldn't think of one, so I just went with the BR.
Oh, it's gonna be the Halo 2 SMG and pistol.
Oh,
The combo. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
You hold down.
Yeah, pre-patch, you could shred them.
Yeah, pre-patch. You hold it down and you shoot. Yep.
0.03, I want to say TTK. That was OP.
All right. And then last one on the quick cues. What is your fondest Halo memory period?
That's a tough one. I have a lot
tough.
of. It is. I have a
Mhm.
lot of fond Halo memories, like whether you're talking competitive or I guess mostly mine are competitive. I'll do 2.
Okay.
One would be the first time that I got to compete with Dreamy Dream on LAN, and Domino was our coach. And my other one was competing in FPL with Bittersweet, OQD, and Dream Queen.
Aww.
Yeah, you guys made a run.
Yes, yeah, we did. We tried.
Probably my fondest obviously would be when I first got into Halo. It was with my dad, and my dad made me play campaign, and I played the campaign for literally 24 hours straight. And I got so addicted then to Halo 2 online when he transitioned, and all I remember is my dad always catching me at like 3 o'clock in the morning and then screaming at me and then taking the modem out and then ripping the modem away and then hiding it in the house, and then I couldn't play online. And I had those like little tiny earpiece. It was like the one little earpiece with
Oh,
the
yeah.
little like line.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Halo 2. That is like my fondest memories, like my
Oh, man.
childhood of growing up, like sitting like a little troll, just like with this little mic and just like
The Fish 13, right?
as the Fish 13. Yep. And everyone called me Fishy and stuff. And I was like, oh. And then competitive wise, it was probably making as far as I did in the bracket. And then it was a Halo Reach. And then we got knocked out by losers bracket. I don't know why he was in there, but it was Lethal, Adrenaline, Acorns, Amish Acorns, and
Wow.
I forgot the Blaze. I think that was the 4.
That was right
And
after they started
Dallas?
blowing up
Yes.
off the combine.
I think that's where they won that combine. So I
Yep.
didn't know how they got to losers bracket because I was so
That's
disappointed.
insane.
Yeah, they knocked us out in losers bracket, and I remember getting slaughtered on Ivory Tower, the remake on Ivory Tower.
They were insane.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
people didn't really know who they were. I mean, they like started to know who they were, but that was like Lethal's first major win, I think.
Yeah, and then I don't know what happened to Amish Acorns and Adrenaline after that. 'Cause-
Acorns is a doctor now.
Wow.
Yeah, like a super smart doctor. I want to say he's like a neurosurgeon or something.
Oh my god.
Holy-
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Headshots to brain surgeries.
Yeah, right? Wow.
Wow. Well, this has been so much fun. I just want to extend my thanks for both of you to come onto the show, share your experiences, and tell us a bit more about Women of Halo. Before we sign out, though, we want to give you the floor. So is there anybody that you want to thank, anything that you want to say, or any shout outs you'd like to give? Go ahead, Veronica.
I just want to thank my entire executive Women of Halo team, Generic, Exodomino, Bittersweet, Lady Echidna. Thank you for all the support. Thank you for being around, and for everything that you guys have done for the community and for Women of Halo. And I just want to thank the community for supporting us, for constantly pushing us to create more opportunities. So thank you.
Yes, big shout out to the community, our team, mostly like all the ladies that have stuck around, and everyone that's kind of helping to grow Halo. I think that's like the biggest shout out that we can give is that everyone that's still sticking around in Halo, and like yourselves guys, like you guys doing a lot of community content, whether it's LVT, whether it's HTS, and everyone's still just getting Halo Esports to where it needs to be. I think it's really important everyone gets the acknowledgement they do for all their work, and it's very much appreciated, and everyone's watching, I'm sure, and can see the hard work that everyone's putting into it. So shout out to everyone in the Halo community.